All right, today we're going to uncork a really fascinating topic, the incredible life of sugar in wine.
So when you look at a glass of wine like this, what do you really see? Yeah, there's the color, the texture, maybe even a bit of history, but what gives it its power, its personality? The secret, my friends, all starts with sugar.
Okay, let's get right into it. Sugar is kind of the secret engine of wine. It has two huge jobs, right? First, it's the food for the yeast that makes the alcohol. I mean, it's as simple as that. No sugar, no alcohol. And second, whatever sugar is left after that party is over, well, that's what gives wine its sweetness. It's literally the beginning and the end of the whole deal.
So, where does all this magical sugar come from anyway? Well, our story doesn't start in a cellar or a barrel room. Nope, we've got to go back to the beginning, out in the vineyard, under the sun.
And it all comes down to a word you probably haven't thought about since high school biology: photosynthesis. The grapevine is basically this incredible little sugar factory. It soaks up sunlight, sucks up water, breathes in carbon dioxide, and bam, it creates sugars. This is ground zero for everything that wine will eventually become.
Now, in this world of grape sugar, there are two main characters in our story, two stars of the show, glucose and fructose. They're both what we call simple sugars, and trust me, they are the ones who really shape the wine's destiny.
You can almost think of them like siblings, with totally different personalities. Glucose is the responsible one, the workhorse. It's the plant's main source of energy. But fructose is the flashy one. It's famous for being intensely, incredibly sweet. It just hits our taste buds way, way harder.
And what's amazing is you can actually see this difference in their basic chemical makeup. See that little bit right there, the carbonyl group? On glucose, it's tacked on the end. On fructose, it's tucked into the middle. And that one tiny change, that's the whole reason fructose tastes so much sweeter to us. It's wild, right? And it really dictates how it's going to act in the final wine.
Okay, so we have our two sugar siblings, but here's the thing, they don't just pop into existence. The amount of each one and that all-important balance between them is constantly changing as the grape ripens on the vine. It's a real journey.
And this timeline, it lays it all out perfectly. Look, early on, when the grapes are still green and herbaceous, there's not much sugar at all, and it's mostly glucose. But then, veraison hits. That's when ripening really kicks off, and you see this rush of sugar into the grape. The ratio starts to change. And by the time we get to that final ripening phase, we're at a perfect 1-to-1 balance. The plant has used up some glucose for energy, leaving this ideal 50-50 mix for the winemaker to work with.
And now we get to the most dramatic part of the sugar's life. The grapes have been picked, they've been crushed, and all that beautiful sugar is about to go through a massive, incredible transformation.
Yeah, this quote really nails it. Alcoholic fermentation is the origin of the transformation of the must into wine. It's not just a step, it's the step. This is the moment grape juice, or must as it's called, actually becomes wine.
So what actually happens here? Well, you can think of it as a giant feast for yeast. We add these tiny little fungi to the sweet grape must, and they just go to town. They start gobbling up all that glucose and fructose, and as they eat, they release two byproducts. One is ethanol, that's the alcohol. The other is carbon dioxide, which you'll see bubbling away. But, and this is a really important point, yeast is a bit of a picky eater. It loves those 6-carbon sugars, glucose and fructose. But there are other sugars in there, 5-carbon ones called pentoses, that it just can't digest. So no matter what, those guys get left behind. They don't get an invitation to the feast.
And that brings us right to what's in your glass, whatever is left over after that yeast feast is finished. We call that residual sugar. And that, right there, is what decides if a wine is going to be dry, sweet, or somewhere in between.
So when you see words like dry or sweet on a wine label, it's not just a fuzzy feeling. It's actually a technical thing. It's all based on exactly how many grams of sugar are left in each liter of wine. So a wine labeled dry means the yeast ate pretty much all the fermentable sugar it could.
Okay, now remember how I said fructose was the super sweet sibling? Well, get a load of this. This chart puts it all into perspective. If we call regular table sugar a 1 on the sweetness scale, glucose is actually less sweet. But fructose, whoa, it's almost twice as sweet. And this is why even a tiny bit of fructose left in a wine makes a massive difference. It's the secret weapon behind those amazing sweet wines, like a Sauternes or a great German Riesling. That powerful fructose sweetness is what the acidity has to balance.
But hold on, our story isn't quite over. Glucose and fructose aren't the only sugars in town.
There's another type we have to talk about, one that has nothing to do with sweetness or alcohol, but everything to do with the wine's texture and how clear it looks. Let's talk about pectins.
So what are pectins? Well, they're these really big, long-chain sugars that you find in the grape skins. And honestly, for winemakers, they can be a total pain. They can make the juice kind of thick and syrupy, which means you get less of it. They can make it cloudy, and even worse, they can trap all those beautiful color and flavor compounds you're trying to get out of the skins.
So how do you fix a pectin problem? With science, of course. Winemakers have this trick up their sleeve. They add special enzymes that basically act like tiny little molecular scissors. They just snip, snip, snip those long pectin chains into smaller pieces. And the result is pretty awesome. You get more juice, way more color and aroma, and the wine clears up and filters so much easier. It's a really clever fix for a very sticky situation.
And that's it. That's the incredible life of sugar and wine. From a little bit of sunshine in the vineyard, to a wild party for yeast, to that perfect final balance in your glass. So the next time you pour a glass of wine, take a sip and really think about it. Are you just tasting grapes, or are you tasting the complex, amazing ghosts of sugars past?